Okay, so why did you go to the trial?
I went to a trial because I'm a bit of a legal hobbyist. I would be a court watcher if I didn't have a full-time job, and so I had some time off of work due to um, a child being born, and the in-laws were in town and wanted to get out of the house when the in-laws were there, at least for a short time. And I just looked at the court calendar for the local federal court in Knoxville, and I saw that there was going to be jury selection. So I thought, great, that's the start of a trial. I could just sit in there, get it from the beginning. And so I did a little bit of research. I found a USA Today article about using the names Heather Ann Tucci Giraffe and Randall K. Bean. I saw that they were labeled sovereign citizens, which that piqued my interest. And because I've seen some YouTube videos about that in the past, but still didn't really have a firm knowledge of what that really entailed. And also, I saw that it was a lawsuit, or not a lawsuit, it involved my bank, my personal bank, USAA. I'm a member of that bank and have been for the past 11 years. And so I thought, hey, there's a connection there. This sounds like good fun. And so I showed up bright and early, right with the jurors. In fact, I walked in with the jurors. I got in the wrong line there for a split second. And I was directed to the right place, went up to that third floor, I think it was, walked into the courtroom and sat down amongst some other observers, which I did not know anyone at that point. No one in that courtroom was familiar with me, to me. I sat down next to this really nice older lady, and she told me that one of the defendants had been staying at her house under, I'm not sure if she used the phrase house arrest, but she told me that her name was Heather, and automatically I started remembering back to the article. And that's right when the trial was starting to gear up a little bit, and she handed me a note card with a website on it, and she said, "This website will tell you everything that's happening here." And that website was i-uv.com. And from then on, and she handed me the note card because I had that big Ron Chernow novel book, the Alexander Hamilton, what the play is based on. I thought I would read it during jury selection. She said, "Here, use this as a bookmark." And so, but throughout the process, she started asking for the card back and was writing down notes to me on what was transpiring, who Randall Bean was, who Heather is, or who Heather is also. And it was from that point that I started getting some information. First, I really heard about the RV. And from then on out, I sat down. Jury selection took most of the day, but they did start with some witnesses there in the beginning, as you know, from the transcripts. And it wasn't until I went home and finally got on IUV.com that I really started researching their side of the story. And there's just so much content there. I think they work on the logical fallacy of proof by verbosity. It's just like there's just so much stuff out there on their end, hours and hours and hours of videos. But I was most interested to hear from, they had these daily reflections after the courtroom. And I'm like, hey, I know these people. And I was even mentioned a couple of times in these reflections, like, yeah, there's a guy here. His wife had just had a baby. He just wanted to get out of the house. And I was totally neutral through the whole thing. I wanted to be as objective as possible. I wasn't trying to be deceiving to them. I just wanted to be an open ear. I never once let on that I was pro RKB, HATJ. I never let on that I was against them. I just wanted to absorb everything that was happening. So that's how I fell in. And at that point, I was hooked. Like I was looking forward to even going day after day after day, especially after listening to their reflections. So that's how I stumbled in the courtroom. And that's what really piqued my interest at that point. Yeah. And again, I have to say that almost everyone in that IUV groupie circle, I called them in our pre-interviews, all of them were exceedingly nice and kind, warm people. I mean, they have that going for them. And this one particular lady, she lives in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. And so Heather had to travel every morning before court. And her first day, she got there late. Probably came into the courtroom around 9:15. I mean, it was just to the point where the court officers were getting perturbed. And but they had to travel from Oak Ridge to downtown Knoxville, which with morning traffic, would you have to leave quite early in order to make it there on time. And again, this lady was very sweet, very kind, and was just giving me all of this information. And I really didn't. There was a and I'm sorry, I'm not dealing with first names. It was months ago. There I did not feel like this particular lady was trying to indoctrinate me in any way, but there was one in particular that turned around.
If I send you the picture of the lady, would you be able to recognize her?
Let me see here. Okay. Yeah, that's her. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, is that the?
Yeah, that's the one that Heather was
Yeah.
living with. Which,
Yep.
that's another interesting thing that they don't seem to question is if Heather is working for all these top level organizations, why does she need to sleep in your bedroom?
I'm surprised. I'm very interested to know from what I understand. Heather is from out of state, like in Maryland or Boston area or something to that effect.
Washington State is where she grew up.
Washington State. Wow.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how she came across for someone from Oak Ridge, of all places.
You mean Knoxville? Where is Oak Ridge?
Yeah. Oak Ridge is it's about maybe 30 minutes outside of Knoxville. It's in Anderson County. It happens to be where the Manhattan Project, one of the key sites of the Manhattan Project, they developed the bomb there.
We'll have to sort of collaborate what we each know here. After the Morocco situation fell out, there was like radio silence for about 2 years. That was from 2014 from 2016 to now. Heather, okay, what we know is that what she grew up in Portland, in Washington State, went to school there. At some point, she goes to Morocco. We don't know when. And then when all this starts in July with the Harvey Dent video, she's in Texas, mooching off some woman, Lisa, in Texas. And that's why I got confused. And then Randy's from Knoxville. No, he's not from Knoxville. He's from the place you mentioned. Randy gets in trouble, so Heather drives over. I think that's how it got to that situation.
Interesting. Yeah, I do know with the trial, I mean, they were putting up Randy's addresses and all up on the board. So I'm not exactly sure what brought him to Knoxville. I mean, I know he had a job here. Maybe that's what it was. Worked for a firm here, which I wasn't very familiar with, but looked like a legit operation. And how he got caught up in this was also unclear.
I'll be honest, I'm also unclear on that. From what I've heard, he had a Blog Talk Radio in 2012, but I haven't been able to find it. Maybe he deleted it. And it looks like he got involved in the sovereign citizen right to travel thing and cross-pollinated with the OPPT people. OPPT, you mentioned that you didn't know it, but Heather's original thing was won people's public trust, which she claimed foreclosed all the world governments and also gave people access to $10 billion worth of gold and silver. And it seems like that's how that seems like where he got involved.
Yeah. What was interesting is that the vibe walking into the courtroom really felt like some type of, I'm not sure if you've had an opportunity like back in the day, like in the internet days when you had message boards and you became friends with a lot of people on these message boards and then you all agreed to meet somewhere. And it felt like one big, almost Comic-Con of some sort of, you could tell that these individuals were friendly with each other, that they knew each other, but also it's just the first time that many were meeting each other for the very first time.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think you met Sheila, right? I mean, she was well, according to what she says. So let's put that caveat there. According to what she said, she didn't know about any of this stuff prior to the trial. So she didn't know about the Morocco stuff and all that. All
Huh.
older stuff looked like she got into it fresh. And I think the younger girl, who I forget now, Katie.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think she's also new to this, so
Interesting.
it does seem like they don't know the background, and that
Yeah.
maybe that's the vibe there.
Yeah. Now, I will say that Sheila, she's the one who leads those conscious conversation and things, right? Alongside BZ. And
Yeah.
okay. Sheila was a bit standoffish to me. She didn't know what to think of me. She was just naturally, they all were like, they were questioning almost everybody. So who do you work for? And I come in again, I have a book of Alexander Hamilton in my hand and they were like, so who are you with, DOJ? And I'm like, nope, just a citizen off the street. You know, I was a school teacher and I love the law and I'm just here to observe. And so Sheila she never really engaged me very much. Katie, on the other hand, very, very sweet girl. And that was my main question. I mean, you could tell kind of had that California vibe. I work a lot in Cali. And so I just kind of know that vibe and just very sweet, kind. And I'm like, how did you get in this stuff? Like this makes no sense to me. Um, but yeah, I mean, I connected well with everyone. I felt I even got a head nod from Randy. Like he's kind of in an area where you can't necessarily reach out to him or whatever, but he gave me that head nod across the hall, across the way rather, of, you know, kind of the nice to meet you kind of nod. But yeah, Sheila and I didn't connect well, and Heather and I was not introduced to her really. She was always just in a fury, as you would expect. You know, she's defending herself, so she's just throwing documents across the way and take this down to the court clerk. And she was just she arrived late and was just in a big rush the whole time, so didn't really connect with her. Didn't even have an opportunity to, but the rest of the folks, you know, I exchanged pleasantries with them. When I had to step out for calls or whatever, they would catch me up with what happened when I left, as if you know, it's like a movie or something. But yeah, Sheila, not so much.
Let me throw in a little detour there. Since you're on the topic of sort of the paranoia of the group, did they mention that Heather didn't return the jury questionnaires in court?
Now again, this is where my memory is starting to fade. There was some talks about precipice, and then she withdrew them, and then she put it in, and there was just kind of this flurry. I remember something about the questionnaires, but no real detail there. There was just kind of this hum about it, but I couldn't. Again, I was just trying to figure out what the heck was going on at this point.
Well, basically, the jury has to fill out little questionnaires that contains a bunch of personal info. And because Heather is representing herself, she got a copy of those, and she was supposed to return it because obviously you got to protect the jury from, what's the word?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm stuck on the English word for reprisal, is it? Yeah. So she never returned those documents, and I have the sneaking suspicion that she passed the document out to somebody in the IUV people so they could dig up dirt on the jury in case they're
Interesting.
agents or anything like that. But anyway, okay,
Yeah.
let's go to day one because we need to stick to the schedule.
Sure.
What's Parker still like? The FBI agent.
Parker Still, you could tell that he's been on the stand before. And I'm not trying to say that, oh, he was very rehearsed or anything, but it just felt like it was a day at the office for him. He spoke directly to the jury most of the time until he was being questioned directly. And he wanted to really put the role of the FBI in layman's terms. And I'm sure you saw this in the transcript, but it almost became a mental drinking game for me. How many times he said, us in the FBI, our main job is to talk to people. And so he really wanted to get that personable approach down, like what his role really is. He's in the role of people. And so when people, whether it be USAA Bank or some other, or the guy at Buddy Gray, tell him something, he's going
Go back
to
to
look into
go
that.
back to the
So
Buddy
it's,
Greg guy because you cut out.
oh yeah, he just wanted to just give this air that he would follow leads that was given to him. It felt like early on he was trying to squash the notion that they were out to get Randy. So I felt he was very calm, collected, and again, as I said before, just very rehearsed because you can tell that this isn't his first rodeo. Whenever they're getting and I'm sorry, not trying to get out of order, but just using comparative wise, when the owner of the car dealership gets up on stage, he was a bit of a nervous wreck. This isn't his normal thing. Not the case for the FBI agent.
Okay, and Parker Still, that's the first time that Heather gets to talk to a witness, and so does Randy. So how did that work? What was that like?
For some reason, I'm not sure what the legal precedence is behind this. Again, I've seen some law before.
Okay.
I don't know why Heather answers the question or before she speaks, she always says without prejudice. I don't know what that means.
All right, that's a reference to Uniform Commercial Code 1-308. Basically, they think that if you say that before saying anything, that can't be used against you, which obviously isn't the case. But that
Okay.
it's very clear in the transcript that she says it every single time she opens her mouth.
Right. Yeah. I thought it might have been some type of customary, like before everyone argues
No.
before the U.S. Supreme Court, they say,
It's not a normal thing at all.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, yeah, so she blurted out one of those. That automatically, I was just, well, I'm not going to say the word triggered, but just confused by that. Like, what? Where is that coming from? Now I know. That's interesting. So, she was, oh my goodness. And this is where you can tell the jury's, you started getting a feel of the jury. And these folks were very professional. Okay. This was a solid jury. And already, right off the bat, you could see them start slouching in their chairs a bit with her line of questioning, which, as opposed to the prosecution's line, it was just very direct, very straightforward. And of course, that's their witness and all, and you can expect a little bit of that. But Heather just seemed like it was just nothing but a game of gotcha in a lot of this. Like she was trying to squeeze out, like here in the South, and I don't know, maybe it's in other places, but we have this expression of trying to get blood out of a turnip. Like if you just squeeze it hard enough, like maybe it'll bleed. It felt like that was her approach.
What
And
what I got was that they were mostly trying to argue that the FBI used excessive force and that they didn't have a warrant. Am I on the ball
yes,
there?
yep, that went around the block several times. They brought that up. In fact, I think there was a woman who seemed very close to Randy. I'm not sure if it was a wife. I'm not sure if it was a
It's a
sister,
cousin. It's his cousin.
a cousin. Okay, so she was there in court, and out. The only time that's the only time I really got to talk with her. She saw that I went out, or I went outside. It was Friday, so that was day 4, and I had an appointment that I needed to get to, and she was just talking about what's going on in there, and I was like, oh, they're interviewing this guy, and she said, did they talk about how they I think the phraseology she used, and I'll quote her directly, did they talk about how they beat the shit out of Randy? And I was like, no, not that. And she's like, because they did. And
Mm,
how I was just trying to just stay, above all of this. Not, oh, really? They did? I was just out of there. So there was that kind of vibe there, but yeah, no, definitely they were trying to talk about the excessive force and all, and there was a little bit of snickering between the IUV groupies when I remember Park, and at first I did feel like it was a bit of a stretch. Like, come on, man, let's not pull this card, the alarmist card. But he was talking about, that terrorist attack that happened in New York, or where they used a large vehicle, and we didn't know, maybe it was something like that going down. But they just lost it over in the gallery at that point of that statement, equating him to some type of terrorist.
I'll be honest. That was a stretch for me too.
Yeah, and so well, they're the freaking FBI, and
Yeah.
that's the kind of world that they're in. So they just went off the deep end on that one. But yeah, they're really trying to push that excessive force, um, and it was I don't think they did not show any pictures, or at least at this stage when I was in the courtroom, of any type of injuries that he sustained, but I heard that there were pictures of some sort. Uh,
I think he was bleeding. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. I haven't seen the actual pictures to be honest, but it does seem like he did get injured.
sure.
So whatever. How do you say? Full disclosure there.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we talk about the warrant first, or what's your feel on
Yeah.
that?
There was a lot of talk about warrants and some type of error that was found therein about that warrant was issued or had an address on it in a state he had never been before, or he hadn't visited before, or again, it felt like 99.9% of this was trying to catch some type of technicality.
Okay, so
Um,
summarize what you get there. Randy and Heather's argument about the warrant was.
um, oh man, again, it's just a while ago. Um,
That they didn't
but
have one, or what? What?
well, they definitely they didn't have a warrant upon arrest.
Hmm.
Was one vibe that I was getting, and what Parker, what Agent Stills, or whatever his name was, what the vibe that I was getting from him is that they received a call at the field office. They knew some shenanigans were afoot, and he was like in the FBI field office and all, and then they're getting this transaction at like Buddy Gregg or something like that, and they rush downtown, which I think the field office is more in East Knoxville, and Buddy Gregg is at the very end of West Knoxville. So they darted down there, and again, I'm not a legal scholar or anything like that, but it sounds like there's some probable cause action going here. It's not like Stills is going to go in front of a judge and grab a warrant that, hey, I think that they're laundering money. They're using money to buy something that from funds that they might have stolen from a bank. They were going to go arrest people who are trying to
how
steal
much
a
of
big
a
OLV.
drive is that? Like an hour or 2 hours?
So if I'm assuming correctly that they were at the field office in, well, let's see, Strawberry Plain, that's actually a Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. So if they were downtown, in a field office down there, and do you recall what time he was arrested?
I'll be honest, I don't know.
Okay.
Afternoon?
Okay.
I think it
Yeah.
was closing time. He was trying to get out of there at like 5.
Okay, so that's during rush hour and all. Of course, they have sirens blazing, so cars are getting out of the way and things like that for them. But on a normal drive, that's in Farragut. It's a good 15 minutes.
So it's not. Okay, so for the benefit of the IUV people, and since you didn't see day 5, okay, from what I've read, in Tennessee, the FBI has the Tennessee state law gives the FBI authority to arrest people for warrants they have from other states. That's one possibility. That's one legal what legal way that they could arrest Randy. And it looks like they were using the arrest warrant from South Carolina. The other possibility that even if you assume that warrant is fake, they can arrest you. The FBI can arrest you if they believe you're committing a crime in the act. So even if they didn't have that warrant,
Yeah,
they could have arrested Randy buying the coach.
totally. Like that's like law enforcement 101, right? Like that's the vast majority of arrests occur without warrant because they kept someone in the act. Yeah.
Okay. So that's out of the way. I want to talk about Monica Alcala. That's the USAA. What was she? She worked for USAA.
Yeah.
What was she like?
My goodness, I don't know how to describe this better than really mousy, kind of. Just a very soft-spoken, small in stature, Latina woman from Texas. She was also, she knew her stuff, though. Being as soft-spoken as she was very clear in what transpired there. It was really easy for me, and I feel like with the exception of the USA Today article that I read, and by the way, someone got kicked out of consideration from the jury pool
for what?
because they said that they read about the case ahead of time.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and she was like, "Oh, it really fascinates me. I would love to serve on this jury." And so, needless to say, she got the axe pretty quick.
Oh.
But I'll say that I felt very similar to the jurors. Except with the exception of that article that I read, I knew nothing about this. And so I felt that if I was liking someone on the stand, they were liking them too.
Okay.
And
okay, so we know you're technically proficient, but let's say, assuming that you're a more average guy, do you think that how Monica explained the glitch in USAA system was understandable?
To me, yeah, I felt like she was breaking it down into layman's terms. And by the way, I'll share this right out. I think that this is public. I mean, well, I think that they mentioned this. The IUV folks mentioned this in a video. Two of the guys on the jury for sure were IT guys, and one of them. No, let's see. One of them worked for Apple. Okay, Apple Computer.
Huh.
And so it felt to me like he was the most alert during all this. He was sitting on the front row. I think he was juror number 5. And he was hanging on every word that she was saying. And a lot of people engaged, a lot of people writing notes at this point. But when it was Heather's time to cross, they started darting their eyes back and forth to each other. Like, where is this going? And let me also say, and again, not trying to get off the chronological path here, but this is overarching. I feel that this is how the jury was on every single day. They had a very hard time finding people that could commit to a week. And Varlin even said, Judge Varlin, during jury selection, that we do not expect this to go past next week. So there were people, I mean, they were dropping off, and, it's a jury pool. You don't know who's just BSing, trying to get out or whatever. But there were a lot of people saying, hey, Your Honor, I have obligations. And he said, well, if you can make, he just gave this indication, and I'm trying to quote him directly, but, quote, I don't see this going past Friday. All right. So, and you had people with obligations on that jury for the next week. Heck, even me, I'm like, okay, I can stay in here till Friday. I can see this thing from beginning to end. And I was perturbed because it felt like.
Let me pause you on it. Wait, what day did it start? Because
Tuesday.
Oh, it started on Tuesday. So they didn't want it to go over Friday into the next, but it did.
It did. Yeah, okay. And so it was because of Heather's filibustering.
Yeah.
And I mean, just her points and her questions, and I told this about in the pre-interview when I mentioned who started the Congress or something like that. Now that in itself, and I know I got flack on the YouTube comments or whatever because I'm an idiot and read what some Canadian thinks that I think about the law. What was ridiculous about that is because that's how deep down the hole we had to get. Like we're going back. You're asking a member of, I'm pretty sure she was questioning the guy from the Fed at that point, from the Federal Reserve, asking him something that I taught in 8th grade civics. At that point, the jury was just done with her. Done.
And that's only, I think that's only day 3.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
You need to read day 5. It's Heather talking for what looks like 5 hours. I kid you not. Okay, but back to Monica. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think you can explain what the glitch was from memory?
Not from memory, but here's how I was formulating it in my head. It was, he found a loophole, or he found, I grew up in a low income home. Yeah. Okay. And my mother my father would get paid on a certain day, and yet we had to get groceries. And so she would write a check on Saturday, knowing that at that time, all banks are closed on Sunday. She knew that check wasn't going to bounce until Monday, and she would get money in the account by that time. And similarly, it felt like she was painting that as just kind of that gap. He took advantage of that gap, that he was doing all of these shenanigans before the quote unquote check could be cashed. And once it did, and that insufficient funds flag raised for them, that's when they jumped into action. So, and being a member of USAA Bank, this is how I saw it going. He went into his member portal. He went into that transfer funds from other banks. He typed in the router number and his social security number. The router number, rather, for the Federal Reserve Bank that he got from a YouTube video. And he also did a fake, or a 1-digit off social security number too. I don't know if he fat fingered it, or maybe even he was suspicious. Maybe he was like, I wonder if this just works for all numbers.
Well, they showed it on the screen, right?
Yeah.
It's well, we won't say the full number, but it's supposed to be 244 and then the rest of the digits, but he typed in 243.
Yeah. So again, I'm not sure if that was a fat finger.
It looks like a fat finger's issue to me. But yeah, okay, we'll come back to that. Keep on going.
Sure. And I mean, she was, and you could tell that the prosecution was helping her paint this narrative out. And to me, you know, not being a financial transaction guru with the ACH, I even have a small background knowledge of what the Fed is. It made sense to me what was happening here. He took advantage of a loophole, which I felt was the thing. He was going after money that was not his, as the opening statement said, and he got caught eventually. Once they were aware of that, started talking with the FBI.
Okay, okay, on the topic, when do you think Randy noticed that there was a problem with the funds? Because they mentioned a couple of phone calls that Randy received.
Yeah.
Or maybe that doesn't matter. We can...
Yeah. Trying to think back to that. I mean, you can tell that when he was going out there, and correct me if I'm wrong, his first, let's see, which car dealership? It's just like 9 minutes away from my house, but he went and bought two trucks.
Yeah.
Right then he was flying high. You know, he thought this is legit, and here I am. I'm going to pay sticker price for not one but two trucks, right?
Which you never do. You never do that. You never pay sticker price.
Right. And the owner of the car dealership, he said that in all of his years, I can't remember how many years, he's like only seen that one or two times or something to that effect. But it raised red flags for him. Like I just bought a new car. Well, it's a used van. Everybody haggles. Like that's what you do.
Yeah.
And going in there paying sticker, that's suspicious. Yeah.
All right. We got to go back to this because this is something that these guys have been going crazy about. Okay, as you said in the indictment and in the trial, they accused Randy of using his social security number with one digit altered.
Yeah.
Randy denies that. He says that he used his real social security number, even though that doesn't matter. But what evidence did they show that he typed in, that he fat fingered the social security number?
Well, I remember seeing a screenshot of they went into. I would even go to say too much detail of his address right there on screen, his full-blown social security number right out there for everyone to see. In fact, the Elbow Council did object to that.
Screenshots of what? Let's clarify that.
Yeah, there were they were on USAA's end, and you could tell like they were from logs. They had his USAA member number, they had his name, they had this just transaction that was trying to go through, who he was trying to reach out to, and all. And I mean, it was legit stuff that's on the back end of all of these servers of where we click and go to their.
All right, well, it was on USAA's end. There weren't any screenshots from Randy's end.
No. These were all. This is when the prosecution is throwing up these slides and saying to the USAA rep, "Okay, what is this? Okay, this is from our logs, and this shows yada yada yada." Maybe there's a screenshot from Randy's end on there.
You didn't get to see that. Because I remember that they mentioned that Randy was sending Heather screenshots, and I was wondering if those screenshots ended up in the trial.
I do not remember that. I remember seeing Facebook posts and stuff.
Okay. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
But I do not recall that. There was just so much content that they were putting up on those plasma screens. Yeah.
All right. So. From your end, absolutely solid proof that he did fat finger the social security number.
There was a different number up there on the screen. It was like one digit off. What was it? Like one less? Like
Yeah,
four versus
it
three?
was 243 instead of 244, if I'm looking at it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
we should probably
definitely. Oh,
clarify this. Even if
uh-huh.
he had typed it incorrectly, it would still be a crime what he did.
Well, of course, yeah. Regardless, and I'll also share. You asked Heather's reaction to Parker Stills, and I just want to make a note, and this applies to Randy altogether. Whereas Heather was incredibly verbose. Varlin, engaging with Varlin, he was just doing yes sir, no sir type answers. Actually, I think it was yes and no. No real sign of respect from him, like your honor or anything like that. But Parker, I remember he was downright combative. And again, walking in there, knowing he has a personal grudge against this guy who was responsible for slamming him to the ground and injuring him and everything like that. And his demeanor towards him was incredibly aggressive, very non-professional since he's representing himself and everything.
Right,
And
Randy.
yeah, Randy's attitude was just if it was a lawyer, he would have been dressed down.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah, you couldn't tell that from the transcripts. I'll be honest. I'm actually kind of surprised by that. I would have thought he kind of seems like a nice guy. I wouldn't have expected that.
You could tell it was personal for Stills.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And again, I felt like I was the 13th juror, so to speak. I was turned off by him at that point. I lost a lot of compassion for him. And the IUV ladies just go off and big Randy in there, and he's just so warm and bubbly, and he is to them. He's kind to his friends, but when in the courtroom, it was very curt, cold even at times, and but man, he had it out for that agent. It was very personal.
Actually, let me ask you to clarify something.
Okay.
Are you telling me you use the same phone app with USAA that Randy did?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I'm a member.
So you were totally so you totally understood how he did it and everything, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I
Okay,
knew
okay.
which buttons he was clicking and everything. Like it was, yeah. I'm a big USAA fanboy.
I feel like we need to do the explanation of the CD thing. Okay, correct me if anything I'm saying was wrong. All right, Randy buys the CDs around midnight when the bank is closed, correct?
Yes,
And
yes.
USAA normally puts holds on CDs so that you can't sell them, correct?
I've never purchased a CD from them, but that is what was being conveyed. Yes.
Okay. And as Alcala explained, the holds are placed on the CDs at 8 p.m. when they're batch processed. But because Randy purchased the CDs at around midnight, there was no hold placed on them. The hold would have been placed on them at 8 p.m. the next day. But because Randy sold the CD in the next morning, before the hold had been placed, he was able to get cash out of USAA.
Yeah. Again, shenanigans. You could tell that he was working very intentionally with haste here during this whole time.
And this is inside baseball here, but the people that follow the case on Quatloose and the Fogbo forums, and I guess YouTube to also, we've never been able to figure out who came up with the idea of buying and liquidating CDs very quickly, because Harvey Dent was apparently also trying to do it, but he was doing it with Scotiabank, and apparently Scotiabank does place holds on CDs purchased late at night, but it's not clear who came up with the idea. That's one of the unanswered questions.
My gosh, it sounds something like the mob would do, or something to that effect. I'll share. I can't prove this in any way. Okay, I can't prove this. I will tell you that as a customer of USAA, they they serve. You can only become a member if you're an active military, if you're a veteran, or you're the offspring of a veteran, which that's how I got in. I never served. My father did.
Mm.
And there is so much. I mean, it is a banking institution, and they deal with shenanigans all the time.
Right.
But there's just so much trust, to me, and friendliness there. It kind of feels like and I don't know how well this translates, especially to the YouTube audience. It just kind of feels like the Chick-fil-A of banking institutions. It's just very warm, kind, friendly, trustworthy. It's really part of their culture. You call in and hey, I see you have a birthday in 3 days. And I'm not saying that therefore makes their banking policies on the back end naive, but they're dealing every day with members of the armed services who are great men and women. And I'm not saying they got blindsided or anything like that, but I feel like that was taken advantage of. I don't even know if something on a scale like this could have happened with something like Wells Fargo, we'll say. Maybe it could, but I just don't think they cater to a totally different audience.
Yeah, okay, but a little aside here, but it did to me, because I'm not familiar with USA. It did seem a little bit disingenuous for them to say that, oh, we give you credit because you're a veteran, when in reality it was simply an oversight to not put a hold on the CD because it was sold at midnight.
Probably. I mean, I think they got caught with their pants down.
Yeah.
And they might be spinning all of this, but I mean, I also think he took advantage of a lot of people's goodwill.
Oh yeah. Well, what do you mean by that? I'm actually confused me there. What other people?
Well, I mean, just car dealerships to the RV folks. Yeah, I mean.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Individuals who are getting swindled right before their very eyes, and they're none the wiser. So that's just all.
Actually, since you mentioned the mob, there's actually a little bit of an overlap here with the plot of Catch Me If You Can. I don't know if you ever saw that one. Leo DiCaprio. Yeah, where he's floating checks. There's actually a lot of similarity. That was I actually used that to try and explain early on how Randy did it. Let's see here. Richard Davey. Let's go on to day two, because we're about.
Okay.
Which one is Richard Davey? Was he interesting? Actually, no. Let's go. The pictures of the RV. Did you think that was boring, or was it interesting?
Well, right about the 40-second picture, and I'm speaking hyperbole here, but not by much. I mean, it was like, we get it. It's a nice RV. Okay. He swung for the fences. It's a nice RV.
Yeah,
it's a luxury model, luxury coach.
Yeah, I didn't see any pictures of the RV until last week when somebody posted them on Reddit. But yeah, it is a good RV. But let's see here.
I'm finding so much out about this case. There's a Reddit thread on this stuff.
Well, there's been a couple of Reddit threads throughout, and
wow.
Somebody asked what a $500,000 RV was, and actually they found the link for the RV dealership. They're trying to resell it still at this point. I think for less.
Huh.
Actually,
sure.
Maybe we should explain. Well, actually, do you want to see a picture of it? No, you already saw it. What I'm talking about.
Yeah. I saw plenty of pictures of the RV.
Okay, let me see here.
And I'll also add that my wife and I were driving by that dealership. It's probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I pointed out to her that that's where the whole thing transpired, went down, where they arrested him and everything like that. And we were openly wondering, like, I wonder what ever happened to that RV. It's like the OJ vehicle, right? Like, where is it today? And I was just wondering what they ever did with that, if it's still in FBI custody or if they eventually sold it.
So anyway, okay.
Quite all right.
All right.
Can you hear me okay? I'm on a different headphones right now.
Sounds perfect. All right.
Great.
So we're getting kind of long. What do you think was important from day 2?
Remind me who's on the stand.
There's more Alcala, Richard Davey. I don't remember who that guy was. Arthur Hancock and Jaron Patterson. Maybe we should skip. Should we skip to Sean O'Malley, because he seemed like the more important.
Okay, and again, remind me where he's at.
Sean O'Malley was the Federal Reserve guy.
Oh yeah, yep. Okay, I remember the name Sean O'Malley. I had a classmate by that name, but this guy from the Fed, he was a completely different, completely different guy. Are we recording now? Are we ready?
Yeah. We're recording now.
Okay. Cool.
All right, so Sean O'Malley. We're skipping to day 3 because day 2 was. I can't remember anything good from day 2. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I think the dealership guy was in day 2 there somewhere, and I already shared a little bit about that. But day 3, Sean O'Malley. To me, I just found it intriguing that I saw, as much as what's written about the evil, shadowy Fed out there on the internet, to see a personification of the Federal Reserve in our presence. The jury was okay with him, I felt, particularly when the prosecution was doing their line of questioning, and so laying out the case before him. But it went a little long there. Folks were getting antsy on this one. Not saying that he was. I'm not saying that the jury wasn't a good jury or anything to that effect. I felt like their mind was already made up. Okay. And so everything this point forward was just overkill. But
did anything stand out about Sean? What was he like? Or
now I can't remember if it was him that said it or someone else, but I remember the IUV crowd in the gallery making a big deal over this gap of time about, and I can't remember the exact quote, but they were out of their minds over this one. When they said something about the time it takes, and he said, well, the entire economy would shut down or something to that effect.
Was it? I think that was the that you can't stamp out all fraud, or the entire economy was that something like that,
right? Yeah. We can't, we can't catch it or at least the entire economy would go out. And boy, they thought that was just some type of smoking gun. I think they were the only ones that did think that.
You got what he meant, though, right?
I totally did. Okay. And I understand as well. We can't have our banking institutions sitting there manually by hand watching every single transaction that occurs, or commerce itself would crumble. That's what he was getting out of that. And I think all 12 members of the jury plus their alternates believe that as well.
Okay.
That was a noteworthy thing that came out.
I think you also mentioned the greedy thing, but that was in the pre-interview.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Yeah, and Randy was pretty aggressive on that one too. I said he was pretty courteous to almost everybody, but Um, Even me back behind him in the gallery was like, dial it down a notch, bro.
He was
Uh,
aggressive toward Sean.
yes, yes.
Uh,
Again, this happened months ago. I can't remember the exact verbiage. You have it there on the transcripts, but did it ever occur to you, sir, that, he talked about how he'd never owned a home before,
oh
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, he was very testy with
Uh,
him. It was a short exchange, but
you probably don't remember this, but how did Randy react when Sean referred to the conspiracy theories about the Federal Reserve as I think he said folklore or something like that?
yeah, I can't remember his exact phraseology. Um, there's this column that was obstructing most of his view with the gallery. I
Right.
was able to see him straight on. Like I was sitting in the one chair where there was a gap through it there, and I could see him sitting next to his elbow counsel, and there were there were a lot of smirks happening, but the gallery there was just a couple of times where I thought they were going to get called out, and I was afraid I was going to get called out in return because everyone thought that I was with these people because I sat next to them, and I thought, oh my gosh, I don't want to get what's the charge, disruptive in the court or whatever.
Contempt or
But
something like that.
yeah, they were getting a little too animated over when O'Malley was on the stand.
Hmm.
And I'm going to give this analogy here. Um, it felt to me like they thought that they were winning just because they caused a member of the Federal Reserve to come out of the shadows and sit before them. It's kind of like, again, I hope this analogy doesn't get lost, but what many people thought that Kim Jong Un and Trump getting together, like it validates their cause,
Mm.
uh, it puts them on the stage, and I felt that was a win in their column, just that someone from the Fed showed up. Obviously, he was subpoenaed, or the federal government asked him to come down, but it's as if it validated their mission in some way.
Actually, you just reminded me another analogy that I think a lawyer mentioned on the forums. It's a little bit like Munchausen syndrome, where you pretend to be sick so a doctor will give you attention.
Mm.
And this is kind of like them getting in trouble with the legal system, so the lawyers and judges will give them attention.
Yeah, well,
It's a
that's
little bit of
definitely
that.
how they're spinning it now, especially. I remember I was surprised to learn that Sheila, at least, was surprised of a guilty verdict. I remember when the
Oh,
verdict was read, it was pretty obvious. I mean, I remember Katie and them on those videos that they think that they have a juror in their pocket. They think that they have someone on there that's sympathetic. And I'm not good at a lot of things. I'm very good at reading people. And I knew that that could not be the case. We have some conspiracy, Alex Jones types people out in our community, as they're in multiple communities. And I thought, oh my gosh, what if one of them gets on this trial and hangs this jury? What if?
that
And
was actually a concern, actually. Oh, I hate to say it.
I could tell very early on that that was not the case. There was some camaraderie that was being built between a lot of these jurors. I mean, they're sitting next to each other for hours at a time, and just some of the looks that they're shooting each other. I don't, even if I was a supporter, I would be like, we're screwed. And
Mm.
so for Sheila to be surprised that a guilty verdict came down was surprising in and of itself. And so what they're doing now, that meme that's out there of that dog that's in a burning
Oh yeah,
house,
everything is fine. This is fine.
everything is fine. So that's what they're doing right now with all these videos. Oh yeah, this is all part of the plan.
Oh boy.
Uh, and this is, and I even heard one interview like I was like mowing my lawn, and I'm like, okay, I wonder what's going on here. And I saw that they have a new video up. I listened to it, and even Randy at the sentencing was talking. Again, I wasn't there, full disclosure, but he was talking between themselves, like, he's been in contact with like President Trump, or at least alluding to that.
Oh,
Like there's going to be some type of clemency or a pardon, I'm guessing.
yeah, that's their new hope. I'm guessing. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, I probably shouldn't let this one slide. Okay, what I got was that their major defense was that they didn't know that what they did was illegal. Do you think the prosecution did a good job, like rebutting that?
I didn't get that vibe.
They
I
didn't.
mean,
No.
I felt, okay, I'm going to answer this, and if I were them, how I would have argued. Okay. And then, but the vibe I was receiving is that we do have accounts out there with our names. They're out there.
Really?
And everyone has value, and we Social Security, and I know that even to these jurors, they were dialing it back. They didn't go full Alex Jones or David Icke on them. You know, they were playing that pretty close, but that there was something out there that this was a legit operation. If Randy had his wits about him, and this is what was just so confusing to me, is if I were in his shoes, I would have told the authorities, look, guys, I got duped here. I fell for an internet scam. I mean, it's like the reverse Prince of Nigeria or whatever. Like, instead, I'm getting money instead of giving money away. I feel like an idiot. And if he went that route, he would not be in jail for 13 years. I mean, he would definitely be behind bars. You know, this still what he did, he knew what he was doing. There was intentionality there. But if he said, I got duped, we would be having a totally different conversation. I felt this entire trial they were doubling down on it, though. And how can you're entering in your Social Security number, pulling in this money? I mean, it's like he knew what he was doing. And for me, I would have voted guilty.
Okay.
Not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the read from Tucci? Does she really believe this stuff, or what did you get there?
I think she believes this stuff. I've heard some people alluding about mental illness and things like that. Naturally, you can't go into those conversations with someone you don't know, and you're not a psychology or psychiatrist expert or whatever.
Yeah.
I felt that there was a heck of a lot of confirmation bias going on there. That when they're finding these glitches, it validated everything for them. And so what they're doing now is just defending that whole process. See, we were right all along, and now we're some type of martyrs in this whole situation. And you know how they're spinning it, like, well, this had to happen, so all will be revealed.
All right, so this might be a gotcha question here, but it seems like a little bit of a contradiction for you to say Bean knew what he was doing, and that but he also thought that the accounts were real.
I understand. I understand what you're saying there, and I can understand where that paradox would be.
Just being devil's advocate here,
Yeah, but and you know what? The lady sitting next to me, the older lady, I asked her. I asked her outright. I said, "Okay," and she told me the whole 9 yards. You know, you have an account. You, sir, have an account. The Federal Reserve, that it's secret. You have value, and you're worth. You have a price tag on you of millions or billions of dollars and everything. And all Randy did is he laid claim on that money. Okay.
Yeah, I can give you some background.
Even if that were true. Well, okay. I asked her, even if that's true, why would I? What gives me the right to go and take something like that?
Yeah, that's actually one of the angles there's sort of like a split group within them that's now saying that the accounts exist, but you can't use them.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say, I'm guessing you haven't read the letters they sent into the court, but among them was the people that Heather was living with, and it looks like they were trying to pay off their own mortgage with that stuff. So it looks like it kind of looks like a quid pro quo. Like Heather helps them pay off the mortgage with the secret account stuff, and in exchange she gets to stay there. Um,
Oh.
but it looks like, yeah, I mean, they're hoping that at some point Trump will pardon them and they won't get evicted. I mean, I don't know if you read the letters, but a lot of those guys are currently in facing eviction and foreclosure
Oh.
proceedings, which is, kind of part of my interest in this. If these guys keep hoping that there's going to be some magic a pardon and money will start raining from the sky, they're going to end up, homeless on the streets pretty soon.
And dude, let me share with you. I have compassion for these people because I think that they're legitimately deceived. Um,
I agree. I agree.
it's how I feel about, say, Scientologists that get out, with the exception of those individuals they're trapped. They can't get out. A lot of them in these Sea Org ministries and all of that. But these folks can.
Yeah,
And
it's not a
yeah,
compound. You're not locked in.
right,
I mean, it's an
right,
internet group. You just got to click the button. You just got to
right.
turn
And
off your computer.
absolutely. And so that was just so interesting to me that I've never walked into anything like this in my entire life. And I was actually relieved to see that there was I found you just on a whim, that there's a debunking community out there. Even more surprised that there were people that were commenting on the YouTube video, and there are hundreds of people that watched it. And I'm like, wow, this is good for you guys. I'm glad that there's people out there that's heralding the truth and hopefully being able to turn some of these folks away, because you see the consequences of this. There are people right now sitting in jail over this stuff.
Over a YouTube
Um,
video. Imagine that. Imagine that.
it is just the most, there's always been these conspiracy theories out there. I don't know if there's ever a person that's ever went to jail because of JFK theories or
Mm.
9/11 trutherisms. I don't know.
Well,
Um,
Pizzagate. Now we do.
oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah.
We do have a
Um,
guy in jail over that.
that is true. Good point. But I think it's just this. Oh, and another. Oh my goodness. So there was I'll say a friendly journalist there.
Oh.
Um, Christian Alexander, was it, or something
Oh
like that,
yeah.
from Backroom Knox, which is this alternative publication up in Knoxville. I mean, they're print, but those guys are listening to Alex Jones on the way over.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, it's so interesting. I pulled up this email recently. I wanted to read it, but it was so hilarious because for some reason they're now rejecting the term sovereign citizen.
Oh
I
yeah.
think because it just takes an internet search and you see people getting tased, and it doesn't bode well for their movement. And so he reached out in good faith, upon their recommendation, to BZ Rigger on, okay, what do I call you? Okay, replace sovereign citizen with something else. I'm on a deadline here. What do I replace these two words with? And she returns to him like 2 paragraphs worth of information on, don't call us sovereign citizens, call us this instead. And you're like, really? Like, your explanation is longer than the article itself. And he was getting flustered too, by the way, I'll say. He was sitting right there.
No, he said it. He said he got flustered.
Yeah, he was sitting next to, and again, I'm bad with names. I think this guy was the Bill that I'm hearing so much about.
Do you want to
Sitting
make
there,
sure?
yeah. And if it's who I'm thinking of, again, he was kind of Heather Ann's, what do you call her gopher, her runner. He
Yeah,
was
the
grab,
runner.
He was grabbing papers, rushing them down to the clerk's office, and entering things. He was getting quite the workout there, especially in day one.
Um, well, you're new to this, but yeah, his story is actually pretty sad. I mean, it's not clear if he left his wife because of this, or he left
Jeez.
he left her and then he moved on to this. But he left his wife. He moved to Morocco. He's been living off donations for almost like 6 or 7 years now.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah, it's he the guy's a mess. I mean, yeah.
And if it's the same, again, I'm trying to figure out all of these people, but when I first saw that, I knew he was close to her. Like I thought he might have been a husband at some sort. But you could tell that he was just in the groupie pool as well.
Oh, actually,
Um,
is there a romantic? Did you get that sense, or
no, no.
yeah, because okay, that's something that people are
Well,
speculating.
these guys are in court. They're running around very rushed. It was kind of like, and you could tell everything was. It just didn't feel like she was prepared
Hmm.
uh, for any of this, and so they're scurrying around. It would be hard to find the interpersonal workings with all these people. Um, I'll just ask this: Does he have like white hair?
Hmm. I'm a little bit face blind. I
Okay.
don't think I even. Okay, he's overweight. Let's just say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
probably him.
He he reminded me of Bill Clinton, to be honest. Back before Bill lost the weight, and
Hmm.
so he kind of had that Clinton vibe to me. But yeah, yeah. So
Uh,
I didn't get to connect with him either, but this Christian Alexander, I think they went to lunch together and all that. Oh man, that's another thing. Like day one, I'm a bit of an introvert, and I already knew I wanted to keep these people at a arm's length, just professionally and all. They they were wanting to, and bless their hearts, as we say in the South. They're in a new city. They have no idea where to go, where to eat, what's good, and so they were wanting to tag along to lunch or at least know where I was going to eat, and I turned down that invite. I needed time to think, um, and
right.
so off they went to lunch. As I said before, I feel sorry for the fact that um, I think you know, part of me thinks that Randy was just duped. Like he fell for a video, he fell for a scam. Um, his, but then again, he swung for the fences, didn't he? I
Yeah.
mean, when you think about how you heard some people, and that's like Katie and the girls over on Conscious Conversations and all, or whatever they call it on BZ's channel, are talking about how during all of this, that, oh yeah, we were doing it too. I paid off my phone bill. I did all this. And I'm like, ladies, what the crap are you doing? Like, you're confessing to a crime right here. And therefore, if it weren't for the very stringent sentencing guidelines, part of me thinks that this would be the government sending these folks a message.
Which they're not
There is
receiving, aren't they?
right,
Yeah.
but there's consequences for this.
Yeah.
And therefore, I know a lot of people, this wasn't the federal government, but when O.J. Simpson got 33 years for trying to get back his own stuff and all, there's a lot of theories out there when they're like, okay, that's just the government sending them the message. But hey, look, Varlin was using sentencing guidelines. And so therefore, he did his job. These folks did something really stupid knowingly, even if, and back to that paradox, even if Randy knew about the account, even if there were accounts out there, this is what I'm trying to say. Even if there was a $10 billion price on my head and it's held by the Federal Reserve of New York or wherever, what would give me the right, just the chutzpah alone, to go up there and say, I'm taking out millions of it?
I mean,
Like,
yeah,
even if that were
it's not
true.
a it's yeah like you it's not an internally consistent theory. Like if it's secret, it's because they don't want you touching that money. Period.
Mhm.
Uh,
Right. And even just the basic of economics alone, I mean, come on, guys. This really doesn't make sense. I'm blessed to have a job where I work my butt off, and I could go out there and buy an RV if I wanted to. Those things go down in value so quickly. I would never really do that, but
yeah.
that's how I get RVs. I don't go in and mess with banks to try to lay hands on money that's secret or whatever. That's not how I roll. Just instead of invest, I guess that's my message to all these folks that believe that. Guys, there isn't a shadowy force out there. Be Do something productive with your lives. Don't become another Randy and a Heather, because they're not going to get that Trump commutation. They're not going to get that pardon. Nothing is unfolding. Um,
Yeah, let me sneak
just
this in there. Yeah, the you are the value thing really is this contrived theory to get free stuff. But if you think about what an RV is, it takes thousands of man hours to build that
mm,
machine. And Randy is
mhm.
just saying I get this for free just because I'm Randy. And
Yeah.
even if okay, you might not agree with the government. I mean, what he did was fundamentally that there is something wrong there. I think.
Yeah.
Actually, let me sneak. We got to sneak this in here too. The
Yep.
irony of this is that okay, Heather got this the stuff about secret accounts from a guy that was taught by the Montana Freeman, and
Mm.
he got very similar charges in the 90s when he tried this, uh,
Huh.
and and now Randy is facing the same. And actually, ironically, I linked a similar TDA case. Let's keep this in mind. This isn't Randy is not the first guy to go to jail for the scam.
I did not know that.
Yeah, these guys in the early 2000s tried to buy trucks. Get get that trying to buy trucks with TDA accounts, and they got about I think it was 8 years, something like that.
Hmm.
But I'm gonna make a prediction here. Their case will be cited in the appellate decision because Heather is appealing her case. I'm telling you, they're gonna cite that case.
Oh, geez.
Mm.
Wow. So both Heather is appealing her case and Randy's, or
I don't. I actually don't know that bit. I think it might just be Heather, or maybe Randy is. Actually, I think Randy might have missed. Okay, I don't know. I'm not gonna guess. I don't know that bit.
uh,
Anything
so
else we
so
should
that
throw in?
so this would, and I'm just thinking hypothetically, would this go to like a circuit court of appeals, and so like a three judge panel or
Yeah,
however many on the circuit?
it's Circuit Court of Appeals, and the good thing is that you can get appeals decisions for free. You don't have to pay for them.
Oh, geez. Oh, she'll wear that out then.
Oh yeah, but that's the next big.
Case.
That's a big
They,
news. What?
I mean, she is just spinning. Yeah, her wheels.
But we'll see what the appeals court. It would be fun if they get into a lot of detail, but that's asking a lot.
Yeah, I wonder which. Sadly, I wouldn't get to attend that because there isn't a circuit court around here. I don't think.
I don't think it's
Uh,
open. I think they just read the
mm,
document and decide based on that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, kind of closing thoughts from
Yeah.
me in just being the man off the street coming in here. I read a paragraph about it. Only knowledge that I had. and just being able to really, just from a jury's perspective, um, and I even had more information from the jury. Like the jury wasn't able to go home and look up any of this information. I was able to then pop in my earbuds and listen to the ladies talk ad nauseum just about their side of the story. There never was a to me. I can understand injustice, and I think that there are times that the federal government has messed up. This was an incredibly clean case for me. There was no reasonable doubts, and it it should not have lasted for as long as it did. And I felt that the entire court was incredibly professional. And I'm just sorry that, from what I feel, that good people are just wasting, and the good people meaning just some of those in the crowd that are supporters, just wasting so much blood, sweat, and tears over this. And I can understand if it's your friends and all. But I think that most of them are in there with the intention that they have some type of pie in the sky. And this whole event is to bring all of this to the open. Let's be clear. It's so easy to get in our bubbles, like maybe even in the debunking community.
Yeah.
I know that you were surprised how little I knew about, let's say, Morocco and all of that.
Well, we say community. It's maybe 20 people max. It's not.
Sure.
That's not good.
Sure.
So.
But even on their side, with BZ, with thousands of YouTube subscribers and all, they think that this is on some type of stage where the whole world is peering and looking in. I had to explain this trial to just neighbors, workers, coworkers. No one knows about this. No one.
Yeah, I mean, the most views they get is 100, 300. It's not the OJ trial, like you said.
Right. But yeah, it still was. It's interesting to peer in from time to time just to gather thoughts and all. I feel like, and I hope for everybody's sake, and I know that, there's an uptick of activity with the sentencing and all of that. And I shared with you before that I really got into debunking 9/11 conspiracy theories and all of that. And when it comes to 9/11, it feels like in the mid 2000s, like when the loose change videos were coming out and all those documentaries, that the fever was high. It was popping up all over the place. Publications like Popular Mechanics were just trying to suppress all this information. But now, time is, for many conspiracy theories, not all, time is just an agent that just washes over a lot of this. Like, look at 9/11 conspiracy theories now. George W. Bush is playing Scrabble on his iPad and painting. Okay? It didn't bring him into this type of world super dictator. The same thing with Dick Cheney. So it's a shame, but I think it's just going to take time. That when they finally see that, yeah, Randy and Heather are going to be sitting in jail, Randy particularly, for a very long time, that there isn't some grand unfolding happening here. There are no secret accounts with our names on them somewhere in the Federal Reserve. That this was all one big misunderstanding on their behalf. And it's a shame, really, that this is how they invest all of this time. But I'm grateful for you all and the hard work that you do to hopefully bring light onto the situation for those that are just deceived. And I use that word very intentionally.
Let me sort of echo what you're saying here. It is. I agree that it's going to take maybe the 15 years that Randy's going to be in jail for some of these guys to wake up. But like I mentioned, in the letters that they sent into court, there are a lot of them that are currently in foreclosure and in the process of eviction. and I'm glad that that you exist, because they can't deny that you were there. I mean, they might try, but you were definitely there. You saw the evidence. Hopefully, you know, you're not a deep state agent. Maybe they'll listen to you, and get help dealing with your eviction. Maybe try to do what you can to fix your situation, but there's not a magic solution coming from Heather and Randy.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's it, man.
Cool. All right. Just let me know if there's anything else I can do.
All right. Well, I don't know. Pop by when the appeal decision comes back down.
Oh yeah, that would be interesting. And also, I mean, maybe even a second chapter. I'm kind of a novice theologian, and just the even spiritual aspects that they talk in. I mean, I've been researching into that realm, and I, I
Oh,
just get more and more confused.
that's gonna take you months to. I mean, I'm still unclear on a lot of topics, like how are they communicating with the guys from Orion. Uh, I'm not. I'm not.
Yeah,
There are videos in which Heather claims to have magic powers, which that's also something. I mean, it's an endless hole. So be careful.
yeah. Even like one of the most recent videos, I'm just so confused. Like I don't. I think like one of their checks came out to some type of magic number, and like, well, I knew when I saw the number 18 that it was going to be a such and such day, and I'm sitting here like, what are you talking about?
Oh yeah, they love the
Um,
numerology. It's just, yeah, it's difficult to approach these people. But yeah.
yeah, and again, it's really sad. I mean, I remember one story that they were telling while the trial was going on about how one of them gave their last dollar to like a homeless guy that was out on the street, a beggar around the courthouse, and what was funny is like I'm pretty sure I knew exactly the beggar that they were talking about because he confronted me also when I left. But just thinking, my gosh, guys, like you're basically panhandling to be here in Knoxville of all places for this trial, and maybe cut off the recording here. Okay, Sheila was the name I
Oh,
was thinking
Sheila.
of.
I don't.
Where's she from?
It's a couple of hours away, but yeah, she. I feel particularly because she did say that she spent her last dollar going to the trial, and it's just
Yeah,
make some plans for the future. Have a plan B. Okay, okay. Even if you want to believe that the accounts exist, have a plan B, please, for God's sake. Don't
yeah.
don't bet it all on black or red or whatever.
I was hoping that they weren't attracting new followers and bringing more people
No, no,
out.
it's fizzling hard. I mean, on the Facebook groups, there's very little discussion. Even the people that are posting for help with the evictions, they're not getting responses. I mean, it's about dead. I mean, it's embarrassing to be making this video because we're the only ones talking about this at this point, basically.
Yeah, it took me a while to come out of the shadows. Really, it was. I always planned that I was going to go to the sentencings, so I wanted to keep a tight lip. I didn't want it to be awkward if I saw them. I didn't want dirty looks or what have yous. And so when I found out that work was going to prevent me from attending either one, I was just like, all right, let's let's come out of the shadows here, and yeah, they can't deny me. I was brought up in at least three of their reflection recordings. And what I was going to do, I thought I was going to be on video. I even brought the book down. Like there were several people in the IUV that were commenting on my book, so I was going to flash that as a way of reminder. But we didn't do that. That's totally okay. But yeah, they can't deny I'm there, and I'm sure they saw the preview video and they're like, okay.
It's good that you mentioned that because one of the arguments is why didn't they arrest everybody else? And well, I think you kind of mentioned it. It's expensive to have a trial for every single person, and essentially nobody else actually got any cash out of the system. It was only Randy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what else? And also, the irony here is that Heather wasn't 100% the figurehead here. It was actually Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
Heather kind of just stuck on to the and took credit for it and got herself in jail for it.
Yeah. And I mean, there's also the fact that she was saying that I'm his attorney, and she's not a licensed attorney anymore, right? Was she disbarred, or did she?
She voluntarily gave it. Actually, let's clarify that. Her defense was that she said that she was a lawyer, not an attorney, right? I think you.
Okay.
Okay, but in
Well, I
the
use those
recordings,
terms interchangeably, but
well, yeah, it is interchangeable, but she believes that it's not. But in the recording, just to be clear for people, for the IUV people, she said both attorney and lawyer. So that's not an offense. She said both.
mm-hmm. Mm.
And you can check the tape. She said attorney and lawyer.
We were watching. There were 3 large monitors for each major section of the gallery.
Actually,
the evidence was staring them right in the face. Yep.
Did this blow your mind during the case? Because it did for me during the transcripts. When Sean O'Malley dropped the bomb that Randy wasn't even using a Federal Reserve Bank routing number. It was a Fannie Mae routing number.
Oh yeah. You could tell that the gallery, the IUV folk, just kind of threw up their hands with the BS.
Oh, now they're denying it.
I mean, they were like, "What?" I mean, and just guffawing. And, let me just. They were being. There was only a couple of times I thought that these marshals are going to ask us to leave, or we're going to get in trouble. And this was one of those times.
And I hate to say it, but on day 4, I'm guessing you weren't there, but Randy actually admitted it to it. He admitted that he was just looking up random routing numbers.
Interesting.
And then, I guess you'll see it when you get to day 5. But Heather was using the routing number of a random bank in Ohio. It wasn't even a Federal Reserve Bank. So I mean, they weren't even doing the scam right. That was hilarious for me.
Interesting. I mean, I remember seeing on the screen. I don't know if it was a Harvey Dent video.
Oh, wait, did they show the video? I didn't ask that. Did they show the Harvey Dent video?
I remember hearing a voiceover of the Harvey Dent videos, and I'm a huge Batman fan. So immediately I'm like confused. And I think even Batman was brought up. Like, I think it's a YouTube username or a Batman.
Yeah, it's his username.
Yeah, right. But I think from the trial, they pointed out a Batman connection. But I might be misremembering that one. But I do remember a voiceover. And then it gets a little blurry because then I go home and I pull up all of this stuff and then I watch the Harvey Dent videos.
But the actual video has been deleted. I never got to see it. So I would love to see it just to see what it was that Randy actually saw.
I think I remember seeing a video, though, and a bunch of YouTube comments underneath saying, "Hey, man, I tried this. It didn't work." Or, "I'm getting this type of error. What should I do with this?" And but I thought I watched that from my home, and it wasn't on the screen.
Oh, and of course, the irony of using the username of the guy that is two-faced, literally a liar.
Yeah. Yeah. So now talk about a real conspiracy. I mean, I think Harvey Dent, like that guy is
What?
I think
CIA?
he's no, okay. So there's an old Joe Rogan episode,
Uh,
okay, where they try to track down where flat earthism comes from.
hmm.
And they think that they found it in some corner of 4chan, and they're pretty convinced that the guy who started planting those seeds of flat earthism
Was a joke.
doesn't even believe it himself. Right?
Hmm.
That he's just trying. If I can make people believe this, I can make them believe anything. So part of me even wondered that about Harvey Dent. Like
Uh,
it's some type of all of these things start in a this is so ridiculous. I wonder if I can get people to believe it. Like you and I hate to keep bringing up 9/11, but the loose change guys, the Dylan Avery and the Jason Burmis, like originally that project started as just some type of spoof documentary, and then they started um, believing it themselves.
I mean,
And
it is
mhm.
interesting because there have been other free money scams, but for some reason this one took off. Uh,
Well, my God, is there one out there where everybody has $1 billion
uh,
with their name on it?
there are actually multiple versions of it. But well, just to answer your question, I think we've pretty much disproved the theory that Harvey Dent is a troll or doesn't believe it. I mean, he got kicked out of his home. He's got a long criminal record. You know,
Really?
he was desperate for money, and it looks like he ran into this. So he's a true
Oh,
believer.
I thought he was anonymous still.
No.
Oh, really?
He shows his face on all the videos, most of the videos,
Wow.
and people
Um,
obviously got his home address and his criminal records and stuff.
so who is this QAnon thing? Is
Oh
that
yeah,
just part of that deep state conspiracy theory type stuff? And
oh yeah, I followed that.
not really. So like everybody is just waiting for a new post coming out. Is it this idea that there's somehow a there's the deep state and this is the counter deep state movement within the government to fight against that?
Um, do you want the short version or the long version? I can give you
Hit
both.
hit hit me with the short version first, and let's see
Uh,
if I need the long one.
Short version is a guy on 4chan started pretending to be a government insider and playing on the sort of deep state and making vague predictions, and now everybody is following him and riding on his every word.
So does he have like a Twitter handle, or is he still on
No,
4chan?
no. I, this is how this is. That's probably one of the funny things about uh, the thing got too ridiculous for 4chan, and they banned him. Like they banned the threads about him, so he moved to 8chan, which is even less regulated, and he posts there.
Ah,
So
HChan. I've never heard of it.
it's you don't need to know about this. But yeah, he makes horoscope level predictions. Something bad is going to happen next month, and then something bad does happen because bad things happen every month, and then
That's true.
that proves that he has inside information. Basically, this sort of overarching theory that Trump will be vindicated and Hillary's going to go to jail and all the world, all the deep state is going to go to jail. It's a mess of a conspiracy theory, and now they're putting up billboards for Q. I don't know if you've seen those.
I heard that guy on BZ's video mention it.
Yeah,
That when before he entered the state of Tennessee, he saw one of these, but he has no real connection to these people, right? He mentioned Heather. He's never mentioned Randy.
which one? The new guy?
No, QAnon
No,
or
okay,
whoever.
no, okay. That's what you're asking. No, okay. Heather got arrested in July, and
Uh-huh.
QAnon starts in October. But Heather, since she's got internet, she kind of latched onto that for some reason, and it sort of mixed herself into the deep state conspiracy. And while the FBI is framing Trump, so the FBI must also be framing Heather, and it sort of mishmashed itself.
I love that picture of President Trump and Heather next to each other that BZ keeps using
On
over and
every
over
single
again.
post. I love that picture. Actually, no, they switched to one with Trump putting a thumbs up. I don't
Uh,
know if you've seen it. It's so great.
there you go. And again, I think that that's just what's so interesting. You know, when we were talking about, and thanks for the Rachel Maddow clip. I mean, that was helpful to really see kind of the roots of the sovereign citizen movement and all. And yet, you know, the clear connection to the right.
Right. Yep.
Um, but yet, again, I wouldn't think BZ up in Washington State is a. Whereas, you know, they're liking Trump as just this anti-establishment figure. And yet, you know, I think that
Well,
especially their new.
interestingly, they thought of Obama as the same way, sort of.
Mhm,
They were
mhm.
using Obama in the same way, which is actually, since you bring it up, sovereign. They always say sovereign citizen is a oxymoron, but uh,
Yeah,
it comes from, well, you saw the video. People used to say that they were sovereign citizens of the state of, say, Texas or whatever, and therefore the
yeah,
federal government doesn't have power over them. And so
yeah,
it just got shorter to sovereign citizen. That's where
yeah.
the name count comes from. It's not that somebody invented it or that it's an
Right,
oxymoron. It's just a shortening of that.
right. And I felt like one of the best previews of what these people believe is that those terrible YouTube videos of when they're being arrested and all of that, and that kind of whiny faced girl that was in California that was being arrested and saying that they receive all of the rights of a U.S. citizen,
But
but
none of
none
the
of the laws,
obligations, right?
yeah, none of the laws apply to them. And that officer just shook his head and said, "Well, that would be anarchy, or what have you."
That's one of the best ones.
That and then girlfriend quoted the Articles of Confederation,
Oh yeah. Okay.
which hasn't been in existence, you know, which was sunset in the 1780s.
Almost
That's
240
that.
years.
Yeah, that was my knowledge going into that. These guys are just based on technicalities, and they're just trying to drum up an arcane legal system, and there's clashes with that. And I thought that that's what I was getting into. Never these accounts, like they were writing the note card to me and all, and it was just totally foreign. And again, I'm a guy who's pretty up on current events, and I'm like, how this is happening in my backyard? How did I not know about any of this stuff?
It really
Because
didn't
no one.
get any media attention. Well, to be fair, it's a very small group, and only weirdos like myself and other people really followed it. But uh, yeah, it's the newspaper didn't do it justice. It's actually very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it intrigued me. And you know, Sheila was on there the last recording saying there's a reporter in there. They say that they were from the News Sentinel, which is a local paper here.
Mm.
But then they would just turn around and say that they're USA Today. I found that suspicious, and I'm like, they're owned by this. They're like both owned by Gannett or whoever, like that media conglomerate, you know. So
Yeah,
both is true. And so a lot of this is the News Sentinel reporting it, and it just, you know, USA Today will slap their label on the same story.
and the
Um,
final insult for Randy is that his sentencing didn't even get an article, even though he got the bigger sentence.
oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
No,
I've been
that
looking.
really is.
It didn't
Huh.
get any coverage.
That is interesting. And I'll say there wasn't really Christian Alexander was there, and I know that one day that when I wasn't there, some press started coming in. But there,
And
yeah,
you weren't there for day 5 when I think, well, for me the worst one, when she's saying that she meets with President Putin in Antarctica. I mean,
I
I don't know
yeah.
how a judge can hear that and think that's a sane person. Read it. Read
I
it and
didn't
get
know
back
she
to me.
went that. I didn't know she went that far down the rabbit hole. My gosh.
No, I mean, read it. She says that she worked for the mafia in Italy. For buildings that don't exist. She worked in Africa. She worked in China for the president of China. Just things, and I've never seen any pictures of her in China. She's never mentioned China before. So
Yeah.
I don't believe she's ever been to any of those places, honestly.
Well, let me ask you this question, and we can call it a night if you don't
Okay,
mind.
okay. Yeah, it's getting late.
I So whenever I used to do the 9/11 conspiracy theory debunking, I would go on the radio shows and debate people. I remember during a commercial break, and I got this a lot, but
Mm.
just from friends and family that were like, "Why are you doing it?" But I remember one guy in particular in that studio. It's like just a little AM station, but he said, "Why are you doing this? What do you have to gain?" And to me, I was interpreting that question of why do you spoil all of our fun?
Mm.
Like, and I made a joke, and they laughed about it, and it was I said something like because Karl Rove told me to do it, like I'm a shill or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. And I said, but in reality, guys, I'm a history teacher. I'm a historian. I do not want the historical record to be muddied, and so that's why I'm doing it. I find it a community service. I'm just interested in like where did your orbit ever get aligned with this?
Mm. I think uh, um, specifically, Heather.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
When did
Well,
you first?
well,
When did this get on your radar, and when did you become from a passive observer to I'm
uh,
going to start making YouTube videos?
well. Okay, so the background here, the sovereign citizens thing got an uptick in 2007 during the mortgage crisis because they were selling solutions to foreclosures and evictions. And because I hang out on the weird side of YouTube, I started seeing a lot of those videos, and I came across a debunking forum, and the guys there were doing very interesting. The court opinions that they would post were actually very interesting to read. And in the process, I realized, wait a minute, I'm learning all this case law, and they're doing all this great work, but none of that is getting to the guys that are getting their windows smashed and shot on the streets. So I mean, this was before it really got started, but there was a disconnect. The people that were debunking weren't communicating to the people that were in this little bubble, saying that you can stop paying all your bills and you can stop following all the laws and nothing bad will happen to you. Just go ahead and go and do that. So I
Wow,
think that's what bothered me. I think that's what sucked me in.
interesting.
And then we found Heather, and it got to 100. We're moving to Morocco. We're going to start a commune. We're all going to get naked and smoke weed, and that that just went to a whole other level.
Yeah, you see, and I told you I'm a fanatical moderate and all, but
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by conservatives. I mean, I work at a very liberal company, and so I have both spheres in my life
Yeah.
very evenly. Um, Yet, gosh, that doesn't sound like any conservative that I know.
What?
Well, let's just go naked,
Oh
smoke
yeah,
weed,
yeah,
move
yeah.
to Morocco,
And,
and
I think maybe that's also part of the appeal. The news is very negative. If you, it's more entertaining to go read about these crazy people talking to aliens and stuff than follow the news and seeing what's going on over here with all that. There's just so much bad news. And
Yeah.
among the debunking community, you can talk with Republicans, Democrats, all sides of the spectrum. We all agree these people are crazy, and it's a low stress environment. It's
Yeah.
that's kind of the appeal, I think.
So I remember she whispered, I think over to Sheila or something like that, like, what is IU, what does that stand for? And then she whispered back an answer, which I really don't even know. But I just found it very intriguing that go here for all the answers. Okay, well, what does this mean? I don't know. um, I still don't remember what it stands for.
Well,
But
it's for internal value exchange, something like that. Because originally, that's one of the very early versions of the free money scam, but it got
mm,
scrapped. But they kept the name.